Now nice again.
The Infinite Monkey Cage was presented by Brian Cox and Robin Ince. The producer is Alexandra Feacham. And you can hear the longer podcast of this evening's programme on BBC Sounds. In a minute, a full report on a momentous day in Parliament. First, with news of a special programme tomorrow, here's Peter Snowden.
The vote on Theresa May's Brexit deal was one of the most eagerly expected parliamentary moments in decades. This programme charts the build-up to the so-called meaningful vote through the eyes of 6 backbench MPs with strong and differing views. I've been talking to them as they've grappled with the biggest decision in their political careers. They speak candidly about the conflicting loyalties each have faced and what it would mean for them, their party and the country. That's Brexit, the House Decides, with me, Peter Snowden, tomorrow night at 8 on BBC Radio 4.
Now to Westminster and an historic day in Parliament.
Order, order.
Good evening, this is Susan Hume at Westminster, where tonight the Prime Minister's EU exit deal has suffered an overwhelming defeat in the Commons, lost by 230 votes.
The House has spoken and the government will listen. It is clear that the House does not support this deal, but tonight's vote tells us nothing about what it does support.
The Labour leader has called a vote of no confidence in the government.
So this House can give its verdict on the sheer incompetence of this government.
The huge defeat came despite the best efforts of ministers to persuade MPs to back the deal.
What are you playing at? What are you doing? You are not children in the playground. You are legislators.
So tonight, all the predictions were proved correct as Theresa May's deal, negotiated with the European Union, went down to a huge defeat in the Commons, with 118 of her own MPs rebelling. It is in effect the heaviest government defeat for at least a century. Outside Parliament, campaigners on both sides had gathered in force with flags and placards. Beating drums, bells and horns could be heard by MPs even inside the Palace of Westminster. The debate, which began in December before being suspended by Mrs May and restarted last week, has lasted in total for nearly 56 hours. But the moment of reckoning came at 7 o'clock this evening. MPs had packed out the Commons for what the Prime Minister had said would be the most significant vote that MPs would ever be part of in their political careers. As the final speeches were made, MPs were squeezed onto the benches, crowded in doorways and perched on steps. Above the chamber, the Prime Minister's husband Philip sat in the gallery watching proceedings. It had been thought that there could be as many as 5 votes, including on amendments denouncing the deal from Labour and the SNP. But in the end, they opted not to press for those.
I begin by inviting Jeremy Corbyn, the Leader of the Opposition, to move Amendment A.
Mr. Speaker.
Not moved. I turn now to the second of the amendments.
That was from the SNP, but they too were keen instead to move as quickly as possible to a straight vote on Mrs May's deal.
The question is the main motion. In the name of the Prime Minister, as many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye! Aye! Of the contrary, no. Clear the lobby!
MPs crowded through the lobbies, including the pregnant Labour MP Tulip Siddiq, who was taken through in a wheelchair. She'd postponed a caesarean section so that she could vote tonight. A quarter of an hour later, the result.
The ayes to the right, 202. The noes to the left, 432.
When the noise died down, the Prime Minister immediately got up to the dispatch box, looking grim.
The Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, the House has spoken and the government will listen. It is clear that the House does not support this deal, but tonight's vote tells us nothing about what it does support. Nothing about how or even if it intends to honour the decision the British people took in a referendum Parliament decided to hold.
She knew it was likely Jeremy Corbyn would call for a vote of no confidence, so she preempted him.
We need to confirm whether this government still enjoys the confidence of the House. I believe that it does, but given the scale and importance of tonight's vote, it's right that others have the chance to test that question if they wish to do so. I can therefore confirm that if the official opposition table a confidence motion this evening in the form required by the Fixed Term Parliaments Act, the government will make time to debate that motion tomorrow.
If she won that vote, she said it was her intention to hold meetings with MPs across the parties to work out what needed to be done to get a deal passed. There would be a statement and motion about the way forward by Monday. It was not, she insisted, her intention to play for time until the 29th of March.
The government has heard what the House has said tonight, but I ask members on all sides of the House to listen to the British people who want this issue settled and to work with the government to do just that.
Her party cheered that, but Jeremy Corbyn was focused on the huge rebellion and defeat she'd just sustained.
The result of tonight's vote is the greatest defeat for a government since the 1920s in this House. This is a catastrophic defeat for this government. After 2 years of failed negotiations, the House of Commons has delivered its verdict on her Brexit deal, and that verdict is absolutely decisive.
The Labour leader said her governing principle of delay and denial had reached the end of the line.
The most important issue facing us is that the government has lost the confidence of this House and this country. I therefore, Mr. Speaker, inform you I have now tabled a motion of no confidence in this government. And I'm pleased that motion will be debated tomorrow, so this House can give its verdict on the sheer incompetence of this government and pass that motion of no confidence in the government.
The SNP leader, Ian Blackford, said it was shameful that it had taken so long to get to this point.
This is a humiliating defeat for the government. When I listen to the Prime Minister, it sounds like everybody else is at fault rather than her.
And the Lib Dems deputy leader, Joe Swinson, said the size of the defeat meant that a further referendum was needed.
With this result of a scale that is unprecedented in recent times, it is clear that this deal, nor any tweaks to it, will get through the House of Commons.
Now, the Leader of the House, Andrea Leadsom, had tried to make a brief statement to confirm tomorrow's debate and vote of no confidence, but the Speaker had stopped her in order to let other MPs speak about the defeat first. Her relationship with John Bercow has become ever more prickly, something that spilled over once again in the Commons when she finally got to stand up.
I'm extraordinarily grateful, Mr. Speaker. With permission...
The Speaker immediately got up to interrupt her.
I don't really mind whether she's grateful or not, but she's got the chance. The Leader of the House.
Andrea Leadsom stood back up.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Speaker. With permission, I should like to make a short business statement regarding the business for tomorrow and the remainder of this week. Wednesday, the 16th of January, the House will be asked to consider a motion of no confidence in Her Majesty's Government under Section 2(4) of the Fixed Term Parliaments Act of 2011 in the name of the Leader of the Opposition.
Andrea Leadsom, and that debate will begin at around lunchtime tomorrow with a vote at 7 p.m.